Welcome to the happiest podcast filmed on the Roll for Crit set, the Roll for Crit Podcast, the official podcast for rollforcrit.com. I'm Will Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes. I think it's at least in the top 3, maybe not the number 1 happiest podcast filmed on this set.
True.
But I think a good number 3 is where we could leave it at and feel good about ourselves. Now, of course, we're all prepping for Gen Con, which is now less than a month away. But there's another convention further off on the horizon that we're going to be attending, PAX Unplugged. And they just announced their full list of the exhibitors that are going to be exhibiting at said convention. That's in November 17th,
Will Xzibit be exhibiting there?
Xzibit, not confirmed yet. But there are a bunch of other board game studios. I'm not going to read them all, but I'll highlight a few. But if you were worried that maybe this is a newer event, maybe they wouldn't have as much stuff, you don't have to worry.
I was wondering if there's anyone besides Asmodee.
Oh, well, there are. There's actually quite a few. You got your Academy games, AEG is going to be there, pretty much all the standbys. CMON, Kickstarter's going to have their own booth. Of course, Steve Jackson will be there, Calliope, many others. There's also some Blind Ferret is going to be there.
I feel like they're everywhere.
They're everywhere. They like those conventions. They also said they are going to have a few. It's not just board games, but there's going to be a few digital board game style video games. I guess since this is PAX, they're sort of taking some of that DNA, which I think is cool.
I mean, yeah. Even though it has the word unplugged in it, I'm sure some people would argue. I think it's a good thing because as we've been saying, like the app idea of almost combining board games and the video game genre is actually, I think, a good step forward for us.
Yeah. I think it makes perfect sense as long as they don't let it, they don't give little allowances like, well, that has a card in it, so sure. And like as years go on.
Obviously to a point. It's not like
it's just PAX.
Well, you collect cards in
Wizards of the Coast, of course.
Tim
Fowers is going to be there. Portal. I mean, pretty much everybody. North Star Games. So lots of really cool stuff. Big old list. So if you're going out there, you have a lot to look forward to. I think you can find that whole list. We'll put a link to it.
I mean, I'm very excited. The one time I went to PAX East, I did really enjoy it a lot, even though I was working at it. And I think it's going to be really cool, in particular because one of the reasons I'm excited for it is because I know Magic is usually bigger at all these PAX events. And I don't feel as much of a big of Magic presence in like a Gen Con and stuff. So this could be more of try to get the two to see each other, which could in turn, because remember earlier they made a Magic Gathering board game which sort of flopped.
Yeah.
If maybe this could be maybe okay, we're gonna try again with something a bit better.
Yeah.
Or to push through with their RPG style, because we already talked about how I've talked about how much I love the I forget what the term they use, but for their exploring the planes through D&D.
Zendikar, wasn't it? Or
Zendikar was the first plane, but they have a term now for
actual
plane chase or something, kind of like.
Well, we always say that the Magic scene is really big over here, right? More so in the New York, New Jersey area. Maybe they will have more stuff. I don't know if they've announced any specific tournaments or anything like that yet.
And in particular, because as we've said, this Gen Con is the first that has sold out. So giving that could be another really big board game. And that's I would consider a different place. I'd say that's Midwest and East Coast. But I mean, it's far enough that I think it's reasonable. It'd be nice to have one on West Coast, one in the middle, one. Yeah,
I think there are still tickets available for PAX Unplugged. I'm curious to see exactly how many attendees they get. That'll be really interesting since it's a brand new thing, so who knows? But it does have that PAX name attached to it. Again, that's in November, so look out for tickets. Check out the exhibitor list. Should be lots of fun. Now we got a couple new game announcements. The first one, very strange, very out of left field, I thought. Of course, we know Captain Sonar. It's a game, it was in my top 5 from last year. We've talked about it. It's a fun game from Madagot and Asmodee. They are coming out with a new version of the game that is simply titled Sonar. They have eliminated...
What's the last one called?
The Captain Sonar.
Okay.
This is just Sonar. It is going to be a Target exclusive, and it is basically a simplified geared more towards families version of the game. And the way it's simplified is it's only going to be 2 to 4 players. So that's all that's required for a full game, whereas the original was really, you could do like 2 to 8 technically, but really it was like a 6 to 8. This one's 2 to 4, and there used to be 4 different roles. There are now only 2. They've cut it down to the captain and the radio operator, and basically the other roles have just been submerged. That was the Freudian slip because it's about submarines. Merged with the captain role. The captain is basically going to be handling the powers and the energy and stuff from now on. Otherwise, and probably some smaller maps and things like that. And a few of the powers have been, I think 2 of them were actually removed. They just limited it to silence and a couple others. You don't have the mines anymore. So simplified version, but otherwise the same general rules.
Yeah, I have bought a bunch of the Target exclusives.
Right.
We haven't really talked too much yet. We should do an episode where we actually just go over them all. And they come in 2 flavors. One is a simplified, and that's like Evolution has a simplified version. The other is, I just want to call the same game, but either with some of the components missing, or just different artwork, and that would fall under the King of Tokyo, which was a little annoying because there's one different artwork piece, and Machikoro, which actually had it was missing a couple cards, but it was mostly both 2 expansions. So I'm glad it's in the easier, because I think that's at least somewhat of a different game, and it's actually easier to bridge than pull people into the genre.
Yeah. What's interesting about it is it sounds like, from their description, that if you already have Captain Sonar, there is no reason to buy this, that you could, if you really wanted to, easily modify your own game to do the same thing.
From what I need to play the simple one more. We'll go over all these Target exclusives, and I'll probably try this one out too. And I'm not counting Oregon Trail or something where it's a completely different game.
Right.
That they usually can be, if you find the rules online, you could probably customize your game to fit. It almost might be they saw house rules online to fit, because I can understand why some of them would make sense for the captain to have control of the powers as well.
Yeah, I think it makes sense because, again, for a Target sort of audience, not a real heavy board gamer, even for us, it's hard to get more than 6 people together. So to try and sell this to the masses and say, yeah, you need maybe 8 people for a game, that's a tough sell.
8 people for a game that isn't just, haha, apples.
Yeah,
something.
Even for a relatively simple game, if you aren't used to board games, you probably are going to struggle if you don't have someone to teach you.
Well, I think that's actually one of the beauties of Sonar is you say relatively simple, but I don't consider it simple. In the sense that it might be simple to learn, but playing has all this strategy and move,
right.
Compared to being so simple where I could just be shuffle card.
Are you saying the game has depth? Anyway, so this game, I believe Sonar is coming out sometime later this year. Again, Target exclusive, but yeah,
I'm happy Target's making these steps. I mean, sure, some of them I said are annoying, like I said with the King of Tokyo, but overall, the fact that they're willing to put money into the board game marketplace, I think, is overall healthier. At least right now, it seems overall healthier.
Yeah, best case scenario, it helps grow the industry and gets more people into the games, which is cool. Next one is maybe a little more up our alley. Gale Force 9 has announced a new Firefly game. Completely separate from the Firefly game that exists, that they publish also.
They finally gave up trying to add on new things?
That's what I took away first and foremost, is they're finally done with expansions. They finally realized we have exhausted every avenue.
We added a bigger dollar bill. Now what? I don't know.
That's it. That's all I got. So this new one is very different. It is called Brigands and Browncoats. It is a cooperative game for 1 to 5 players, and each person is going to take the role of one of the members of the Serenity crew. And you're not really on the ship, at least maybe you are in between missions or something, but generally it's actually a 3D board where you're actually going to have little buildings and structures that you're going to have to move around, and you're going on different jobs, and depending on, you actually have 2 miniatures for each character. So you have a relaxed one and a heroic one, and depending on which one you choose to put out, you'll have different abilities available to you. But for instance, maybe an enemy will be more ready to attack you if you're in the heroic pose or something, as opposed to, so you could potentially use that for maybe some kind of a stealth mission or something like that. There aren't too many details about it. From the screenshots, all they really showed was it just kind of looks like storage crates and stuff. It doesn't look like there's too much variation. Like you're not going to be in like an art museum or any like really crazy different space heist type locations. But it does also, one thing I liked about this is that this one has, unlike the other Firefly game, all original art that I think actually looks pretty good. Also, unlike the Firefly Legendary game, which had really bad original art. So it looks like a good, like happy medium. It's sort of cartoony, but not too cartoony, based on that Firefly thing. So this seems like a good, I think, a good alternative to the basic Firefly game, the Gale Force 9 Firefly game, where that's pretty heavy, takes a long time, and very competitive. I like the idea of having one where you are working all together, and the minis thing sounds unique.
I mean,
cool.
I'm amazed how we're still. I mean, I shouldn't be amazed. We're doing this with literally every property.
Yeah.
How much we're milking Firefly, considering it only has one season. I mean, it has the comics, but I don't think anyone's ever pulled from the comics, as far as I know.
Not that I can. I don't think so.
Because they're not nearly as known.
Yeah.
But I will also say this is Gale Force 9. I feel compared to some other companies, when it comes to copyright products, they really do give the property justice.
Yeah, yeah. I thought you were going to say it's amazing that we're still making these Firefly games for a show. Not that there's lack of content, but that it came out so long ago, had one season.
It's not as much how long ago it came out with, as much this one season we already have like 20 games on the market.
Yeah, well, let's see. There's
okay, not 20, but
like 4 or 5.
Yeah,
4 or 5. So that is significant.
Yeah. So, but like I said, it's Gale Force 9. Every time I've seen them take a property, I think they've done well. So I mean, and as you said, a cooperative game does sound fun with Firefly, because that sort of almost does feel a bit more of what you'd want in that kind of game. So I mean, we'll have to wait and see.
And again, confirmation that they've given up on the other Firefly.
Well, no. We think so, but right around the corner, there's going to be a promo in that game that works for Firefly.
There could be. It sounds, by the way, from their announcement.
I will also say this.
Please.
Usually, I hate when they just take screenshots from TV shows or things like that. For their, they did a really good job.
That is
for
the best example of it.
It's like the only example I've seen a property do that well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We got Kickstarters. First, just a couple that we're just kind of throw out there because you probably already know about them. Game of Thrones. Sorry, not Game of Thrones.
No.
A Song of Ice and Fire from Simon. That is out now. We've talked about it when it was announced. There's one tier. It's $150.
Yeah, one of the reasons these are more quick is they're more pre-order, I would want to say, at this point when it comes to these big companies.
Yeah, it's you know what you're gonna get.
The other one is Argent the Consortium. Its pledge levels are a bit more diverse because it's for second printing. So they made a small expansion pack, which, like me, if you already have the base, you can just get that. They actually updated the miniatures, so apparently they're better, which is cool. And of course, you can get all the stuff from before.
Yeah, so we like Argent. Haven't played Song of Ice and Fire yet, but I'm sure if you want it, you'll buy it. But then we have a few other lesser-known ones. The first one is Sakura. Talk to me about this one, because I looked at this and I thought it looked pretty cool too, actually.
Yeah, and this is celebrating sort of the cherry blossom growth in the festivals held in Japan. And the way it works, it's sort of like Crazy 8, but there's a symbol, a yin and yang symbol. In one pile, you have to go up. You have to play equal to or higher than the card that's on there. The other is the opposite, equal to or lower.
Okay.
But of course, you may not be able to work on either pile, especially if they get to the highest and lowest points, respectively. So you actually will get coins and can hire certain villagers. I guess I can't remember if that's what they call them, but in essence, they are up top, which can maybe switch the yin and yang. So now you want to play higher, or the lowest pile, or change your value of your card up or down one or something.
Okay.
So it seemed like it took that simple concept of the Crazy 8 style throwing numbers on, but gave that alternate, just that small twist that gave that alternate strategy and ability, also with beautiful artwork.
And it's just a two-player, right? It's 1 versus 1?
Yeah, I believe so.
It was. No, it's one of those Zen meditation games that looks like that we like Takedo or Lanterns, kind of like one of those. It seems like in that genre. Yeah, it looked cool, like a nice, simple one. And that one goes for just $23. So you can check that out. I have one here that I thought looked really cool. It's called Visitor in Blackwood Grove.
I did see that, and that looked really cool.
So this comes from designer Mary Flanagan, who you may remember we played her game Monarch.
Really liked it.
Yeah, and basically the premise is one person is the visitor, basically an alien, and then someone else is the kid, and then whoever else is playing are agents. So there's 3 different roles you can be. And if you've ever played, this is sort of like a logic game. Our friend Garrett would love this, I think. Where
he either loves it or he hates it because he gets salt.
Right.
It depends who you play with.
Where you basically there's a bunch of cards with different objects on them, and the visitor comes up with a rule, and they have a force field. And the basic example might be only stuff with the color green can come through the force field, and everyone else has to try to put cards through and like, does this go through? And the visitor will either let it
so
through
he
or
doesn't
not.
tell you the rule.
Yeah, you don't know the rule. If you're the kid or the agents, you're trying to figure out what that rule is. The kid is competing with the agents, and the visitor and the kid are working together. So as the visitor, you want to figure out a rule that the kid will be able to get and express it in ways they'll get without giving it away to the visitor. So it's that classic, not too vague, not too obvious thing. And there's like a trust meter. So depending on different things you do, actions that the kids and agents can do, if you build up trust between the visitor and the kid, you might get special abilities, like you can see.
Does the visitor know everyone's role?
Actually, I don't actually remember. I know the visitor is obviously public. I think they do. I think everyone is from the start knows who they are. Yeah, they have to be because the kid has their own special actions. So you can't, you know who everybody is at the start. There's no hidden roles in this one. But it's a really interesting, logical kind of thing that seems really like it would fit right next to Mysterium or Codenames.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't help but notice this definitely hits our nostalgic spot. I mean,
yeah, it's got that 80s Amblin-esque kind of aesthetic. The art is really cool looking. So that's Visitor in Blackwood Grove, and that one only $17. I think $20 once it hits retail. So you can check that out. And then finally, we have a final boss to contend with.
Yes, speaking of nostalgia.
Yeah.
Final boss is pretty much it's all just parodying on video games, and you choose like a character, which all of them are puns on like I think one was Speedy the Porcupine. You know,
obviously a take on Crash Bandicoot.
Exactly. So, and then you get a weapon, once again parodying on theirs, and then you have to try to defeat bosses to get our enemies, and hopefully final bosses to get points. And of course, it all has that fun backstabby, but it got me because as a big video game fan, I had a lot of that old nostalgia for games and stuff and they're really close too. I'm wondering if they get how close copyright is. Like one's Laura Croft D. I wonder how far you can push it.
It's fair use. It's parody. They can do it. Is it kind of like Cutthroat Caverns, where everyone's attacking one boss together, and whoever?
From what I can tell, it seems more like you each take on one, but you can mess around with the others, so a bit more Munchkin-y. But
okay, interesting. And I guess it's more like old school, like 2D video game. Well, you said Lara Croft, so I guess they go over.
From what I can, while the artwork is I would call it 80s artwork from the logo and stuff. I mean, Lara Croft was in there, and she also had an iPad, so it looked also like Metal Gear kind of. So I want to say pre-2000s. I mean, I haven't seen every card.
Right. Maybe they'll have stretch goals for extra stuff. I don't know. Yes, so that is Final Boss for $25. So we have some good picks in there, I think, this week. So
no $100 ones.
Yeah, except for a Song of
We don't count those.
Doesn't count. Not in the list. All right, so not too much else to talk about this week, but I did go on a little trip a week ago with some friends, and we got to play a few games. The main one that I want to highlight is The End is Nigh, which we did talk about. We actually previewed it for the Kickstarter when it went up. I got a chance to play the final version with people who had never played it before, didn't know anything about it. And it went really well. I don't know if you don't remember, you probably remember, but for people watching at home, the premise is it's the end of the world, you're in a bunker, and you're trying to figure out who is a cultist, and if you're a good guy, you want to kick the cultists out. But the way you do that is by questioning the characters represented by cards, and the characters will have trait cards attached to them that are secret. and they'll have some kind of weird rule that allows you to look at either one or both of those cards, but usually there's something that messes you up, like once you look at them, you have to switch it with someone else's.
Right, or if you look at this one, then switch to other people's, so you can mess them with other people's.
Yeah, so it's one of those tricky kind of deduction games where you are trying to figure out who each other's teams are, but even more so, you want to know what these kind of NPCs are doing. So
right.
It's interesting that way. And it's also interesting because unlike I feel like it's much more complicated than most of these games like Resistance or Werewolf.
Well, no, they absolutely are, because I think the difference with that one is usually loyalty does not shift between the players, and that's all you need to worry about. So like, let's playing Resistance, and I'm the bad guy. Once you know I'm the bad guy, you have a really easy, clear strategy to deal with. In this game, even if you know I'm a cultist, that's not enough information. I can still easily win without you trying your best.
Yeah, sometimes if you're the cultist, you might actually want to just not lie about it. It might be better for you to just be out of the open and just because you're just like,
because it's more about the people in it as much, less about the people outside. I mean, sure, you'll know what actions they do, but you can't really counter them as much, I would say. It's more about, you need more of the inside information than the outside.
Yeah, for sure. And
which is a good thing.
I think because of that, there's more of a barrier to entry in this game, and also because it takes longer to get information because there's only 12 rounds. And so we played with 4 people, which I actually think is like the perfect number. So each person got to look at 3 characters.
That is one thing. Because of the way the turn system works, I remember a few games have that. I think Seasons was one we've had that issue, where like even though it says it goes up, you really want to make it more enjoyable for everyone to have the same number of turns. You really want. Yeah,
there could sometimes be an unfair advantage, and even more than that.
I wouldn't even say advantage. It's just not fun if you have one less.
Maybe,
turn.
but also if it just takes you longer to get more information. Like really, even until your second round. You really don't know a lot. You're really trusting on what other people say. You've maybe only been able to see one card so far. So I think because of that, it can easily turn people off. I think you have to like get into it a little more. I was happy because when we played it, people really liked it. And we played it a second game.
I do think actually it's a great addition, especially since it's a small one game, to the hidden role genre because of that. I think it makes you have to think differently. It's not just, oh, I'm playing werewolf, but now in a cyberpunk world.
Yeah, it's a very different kind of way of playing. If your group is willing to give it a chance, I think it's definitely worth trying out.
Plus, they're actually, because of the items or traits, I can't remember what they call them, traits. Yeah. They're almost they can be random enough that you can actually have some really silly. I think we had one where like we would have won because the cultist had a dog, which therefore turns them off from being a cultist unless the cat's next to it, which the cat was next to it, chasing off the
Yeah, it's definitely once you've played a few games and you are more familiar with those cards, then those kind of things come even more into play where you're really like oh, this is the cat, so yeah, if that dog is out there, I gotta find that dog or whatever.
Which is fun almost because
it is a little. It also is another thing that can be tough even for if you've played it before. I think is what you can and cannot say, because you're not supposed to say what card you looked at. You're only supposed to say if the person is a cultist or not. So sometimes if people, if they're not as good at keeping secrets, it can be a little trickier. You have to really be strict about you can't say that much. That can be a tricky aspect. The other thing that happened in our game that was very interesting, that was actually kind of disappointing, we played 2 in a row, and there's actually a chance that nobody is a fanatic, that you're all working together. Both of our games, everyone was on the same team, which was really great the first game. The second game, I was like, I kind of wish we got to experience, the odds are low of that happening, but I wish somebody would have been a cultist, because it was all, at a certain point, it was like, really? We're all working? Really? Okay, fine. It was still fun, because you still had to puzzle things out, but it's just an interesting thing that could happen. So that was really fun, and is Nigh. We also did play some Mysterium, which was interesting because they had never played before, and I was the ghost, and just seeing how they misinterpreted everything I did.
Definitely
was a lot of fun. And I realized I brought all these games that I now consider the games that will make everyone mad at each other, which are Mysterium, Concept,
Really?
Speechless, and Pictomania.
Why mad at each other?
Because mad in the sense that, really? You think I was supposed to get that from that?
Okay.
You're an idiot. You should have played this card.
Because when you say mad at each other in board games, the first thing that comes to my mind is Battlestar.
Battlestar. No, but I think I've seen the most arguments break out from these games, like Pictomania, especially, and Concept. I feel like there's this tension that comes from, no, that's not what you should have done.
It's the beauty of hindsight.
This is how you do it.
Because well, I would have gone if you did this.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely not true at all.
It's a funny thing that these are like ostensibly the lightest, most fun party games.
No, and I will say with Mysterium, sometimes you get angry, but at the same time you're like, I understand why you did that. Like, sometimes I'll be angry. I know I get angry if someone's like, why didn't you get that? Oh, because the card was green. Oh, God. Like, you're looking for something else, and you always forget, like, maybe that they're using color or something.
My group was actually very generous to me. We did not win, and for one person, I just had the worst cards.
That also happens in Mysterium.
I used all 3 of my crows. I was really struggling. They got to the final round, and everyone voted for a different thing. Anyway. Fun games. But that's about it. That's all we really got for you this week. But maybe if you've played The End is Nigh, or if you're looking forward to PAX Unplugged or anything else that we talked about in this episode, you want to give us a shout out or ask us a question or anything like that, you could do that in our comments section right here on YouTube, or you could email us at rollforcrit@gmail.com.
And of course, don't forget to subscribe and like. That way we're more likely to have other viewers and more fun comments.
Yeah, for sure.
But of course, we're everywhere else. Twitter, Instagram, @rollforcrit.
Yeah.
Facebook.
rollforcrit.com, where you can also find all of our videos, and you can buy games there. Real board games, real card games, real RPGs. They're all there for you. What more could you ask for?
Yes.
Nothing. Nothing at all. Anyway, that's all we got for you this week. Play some games, get back to us. I'm Jonathan Estes.
I'm Will Keeler, and this has been Roll for Crit.